3, 2, 1.
What's good, Enigmites? Welcome to Thursday Night Live here. We did something a little bit different tonight. I made a few changes with the configuration, and it should have allowed Instagram and YouTube to turn on at the exact same time. I won't know if it worked until I do the replay because you guys know I don't really practice, but we'll see. Let me know in the comments if it worked on Instagram or if it worked on YouTube as well. Let's give everybody a second to jump into the streams. We'll get them fired up. Before I'm doing that, I'll say what's going on YouTube. Welcome. What's going on Instagram? What's going on Ibiza, Mariposa, Malaria, cool name, and Jay. Let me pop out my chats over here. Let me get them all on the same page. And then we will fire this bad boy up here for a second. Hope everybody's doing good on a Thursday night. Set this down here a little bit more. All right, all right. Morgan, Cliff, welcome, welcome. I got Audacious Amber, my amazing channel moderator on YouTube, holding it down over there. And we're just winging it on Instagram. Wolf Monkey, welcome for joining here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll give it another 2 minutes here, or another minute, I should say, and then we'll get it fired up. I want to run a quick 30-minute live tonight. Tell you guys a very interesting Bigfoot story, abduction story, actually. One of the coolest Bigfoot stories I've ever heard in my life. So, Mike Sanchez, welcome to the chat. Give everybody about 30 more seconds. I'm only running 2 streams right now. I'm starting to get my wind on TikTok. I've only got about 3,000 followers on TikTok. I keep getting shadow banned. And I'm not going to run a stream over there until I break 10,000 on TikTok. So whenever that'll happen, then I'll bring in a 3rd stream. But right now we're running live on YouTube. We're running live on TikTok as well. To give everybody a quick rundown, you know how I do. I have a 5013C nonprofit called Project First Step. If you or any of your loved ones suffering from any type of mental health conditions and you need help paying for your treatment, go to projectfirststep.com. We specialize in dealing with psychosis-based mental illnesses. And if your doctor's not working out, your medication's not working out, we can try some alternatives to get you connected to the right people and help you out financially along the way if that's the case with the doctors on that. Anyways, projectfirststep.com. Go give it a check if you're in trouble. Hopefully you will never, ever, ever need it. All right, let's get into this. What's up, my man, Mr. Payson, joining in on YouTube. I'm going to dial it in tonight, you guys. Quick little half an hour. I say that, but it'll probably go about 40 minutes. About a story that when I first started this channel came across my desk, and I did a lot of research on it, and it was actually one of the coolest, one of the most believable, and one of the most amazing Bigfoot abduction stories I've ever heard in my life. And it has a ton of receipts. You know how I get down on this channel. If I can't bring you the receipts, I don't run the story, or I don't run it. But anyways, this has tons of receipts. I'm going to mispronounce a few words in here, but you know, it's pretty good from a white boy from the South. Here we go. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Seraphine Long abduction story out of the west coast of Canada, British Columbia, Canada, to be specifically. I think that's what it's over there. This story is amazing and terrifying at the same time. And so to dig into it, the story is about a First Nation native named Seraphine Long, right? And it is one of the most detailed pieces of Sasquatch. I don't like using the term folklore, but it's one of the more detailed cases of Sasquatch interactions I've ever heard of. And it actually opens up a lot of more questions. As always, I shouldn't be your first stop. I shouldn't be your last stop. I should be your first. Y'all know what I'm saying, nerds. And go check it out, run it down yourself. So, this story takes, I'm going to give you the date and the location, and then we'll get into it. So, the story takes place with a First Nations female, 17, 18, or 19 years old, depending on the story that you look. And it's from the Chehalis First Nation, formerly known as the Chehalis people. So I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Out of British Columbia, Canada. Now this account was passed down. They say it was passed down verbally, but that's not accurate at all. She firsthand recounted this story to an English teacher that was living on her reservation, for lack of a better word. So this wasn't passed down via folklore, right? This story took place in the 1870s. Fun fact, around 1887 is when the first dogman was reported out of Michigan as well. So, but this story took place in 1870s, and it was not an oral tradition. It was written down by a white dude, her teacher, on her reservation, and that's how this story got passed down. It's very detailed. She goes into great detail on what happened and what went into her abduction, and some surprising twists along the way that we're going to get into. Before I do that, Bob, Joey, KD, hello, Misha, welcome to the show. Mateus, sorry man, it's scrolling, so sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so location, British Columbia, Canada. Date, I couldn't find a month. 1870s. Female's name, Seraphine Long. 17, 18, 19 years old, First Nation, Native American, or First Nation girl from the Chehalis tribe. At that time, 17, you were a woman. That's how it was back in the 1870s. I think around 14 or 15, you were considered a woman in those eras. The context of this is set around the 19th century in a region near the modern day Chehalis Reserve. So this was the area that this happened is still a functioning, First Nations tribe area. It's characterized as dense forest, rugged mountains, and it goes from the Harrison River regional associated with the Sasquatch sightings and lore up and down that way. They still see Sasquatch up there. They refer to them as wild men, hairy men, Sasquatches. They have their own word for it in their own native tongue as well. Also, fun fact, the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, have files. You can go look it up on Missing 411, where they refer to those cigar-shaped tubes, UFOs, as Bigfoot ships. I don't know why. That's on my stack of stuff to do. I just haven't got into it yet. So, let's get into this. Seraphine Long, 17, 18, 19-year-old First Nation female, was out foraging, doing some hunting, firewood. At the time, this was reservation life, hunter-gatherer, all that stuff. She was scheduled, I say that, but was about to be married to a brave, another 18-year-old huntsman or warrior in her tribe. And one day she was out foraging for food, berries, or, firewood. It didn't really say what she was foraging for. And she was lost in thought. She was thinking about her wedding. She was thinking about, she was going to make a fresh dress out of some deer skins that they had. Her and her mother and all the other girls were going to do like the rite of passage ceremony. She was very excited about getting married. And so, she was kind of daydreaming and wasn't paying much attention. Suddenly, out of some thick brush, a massive arm shot out. It didn't really go into much detail, but you can just assume that she was anywhere between 5'4", maybe 5'8", 130 pounds to maybe 140, 150, maybe 120, in that range. She said that a lightning quick, massive arm shot out of the brush and grabbed her with such force that it took her breath away. Right? And before she knew it, she was pinned to the ground, and she saw this thing standing over her. She knew what it was. She refers to it the whole time as a wild man. There was a wild man standing over her, holding her down effortlessly with his left hand, with enough pressure to keep her from screaming, and that it rubbed pine tar on her eyes, right? Basically gluing her eyes shut. And then she said it in one motion, picked her up, threw her over his shoulder, and broke out, took off running. And she said he just took off running, and she was on top of, and she was holding on. She described his movements as extremely agile, very powerful, and she said that he was lightning quick, basically how she was describing it. So as she was going through, she said that he was basically effortlessly sprinting through the forest, right? And the dense foliage. But she wasn't getting hit with tree branches. It was protecting her from the things that it was hitting. One arm like this was getting it through. And she said that it ran for, wait for this, about 3 hours. She said that it ran. And she said that they came across a large river at one point. And it spoke to her in her own language and told her to hold on. And when she couldn't figure out why, because she was blind, but she said when she hit the water was freezing and he was having to swim. So only choice she had was to wrap her arms around his neck or die floating down the river. So she wrapped around his neck. And then he swam across this river. And she said it was, fast moving water. And she said the moment they hit the other side of the banks, he was on his feet, she was over his shoulder, and they were what she described as basically running up the side of a mountain. And when I do these stories and when I do these investigations and when I hear them being retold, I look for things that I know happen to people in traumatic situations. For example, somebody could get, be involved in something incredibly violent, or they can, something traumatic can happen to them, and certain smells will trigger that memory, right? Your smell is actually the strongest memory sensor you have. Fun fact with that, but I forget what it's called, but it gets burned into your psyche, right? Sometimes some people go through trauma and they don't know about it, and then 10 years later they're watching a Disney movie and that Disney movie was on, but they forgot that movie was on when the trauma happened, and it just triggers like this traumatic episode. The mind is a powerful thing. She specifically made a point to recall that during her 3-hour abduction that she marveled at how great his endurance was, that he never stopped, he never had to rest, right? And I just thought that was a very, very, very strange detail to include, that she was impressed with him and with his stamina. That's almost like saying, I got carjacked, but man, that was a pretty gun. Like I marvel at how well he kept that pistol clean, right? And so that kind of makes me believe, I do believe this story 100%, right? There's just too many receipts about it. So anyways, he runs her up this mountain, and then she comes to what she described as he puts her on the ground and he moves a stone, right? She hears it. Remember, she can't see anything, right? But she hears the grating of something being grated. And then he kind of like moves her into a tunnel. And again, he's behind her. She hears the grating of the stone closing, and he's kind of pushing her. And so she starts, just her hands are not tied. She just starts kind of crawling down to the end of the tunnel. She gets into there, and all of a sudden he has her. She's back on her back, and something strange happens. He takes some type of, I want to say cloth or something, and he gently cleans the gook off of her eyes so that she could see. He was extremely careful it's going to sound weird, but he was very gentle during the abduction, right? She even comes out to say it, like he was caring. He could tell that, that he wasn't flinging her around like a sack of potatoes, right? He was very, very, very gentle with her. So when she opens her eyes, clears it out, she's in a cave, a 2-chambered cave to be specific. The cave was, and these are her words, was not dirty, was very clean. There was animal skins all over the place. It was very warm. There was a fire in one of the chambers, and there was something going on where the fire could get out through an opening of some sort in the cave. And that's when she kind of went into like some type of like a little bit of a shock. And what threw her into a shock, which I'm actually surprised, this must be a really tough chick. It wasn't that she just got abducted and drugged through the mountains for like 3 hours, is that there were 2 other Bigfoot Sasquatches in this cave. And she described them being older. One was a male, and literally the other one was a female. And so she's in there now, not with one Bigfoot, but with 2 other Bigfoots, right? And they start having a conversation in their language, she said. She could tell that the older Bigfoot male was upset with this juvenile male, we'll call him that, right? He was upset with her. The mother was, the female Bigfoot was locked onto her and was basically just like staring at her like she was staring at it, while the father and the son were having a conversation in a different language. And so then everything calmed down after a little while, and it gets stranger from here on out. This was basically a Bigfoot cave, a Bigfoot, hovel of some sort. But she said these creatures was massive. Both males were 9 feet tall, and the female was a solid 7 feet tall, right? And they took care of her. They actually fed her very well. They fed her, game that they caught and killed, berries and everything else. She was not allowed to leave, right? She was in there the whole time. And she marveled again at a detail that she put into her story is that she marveled that the skins were well preserved, and that they had some type of techniques that they were using that her own people weren't using. And again, that's like being abducted, locked into a room, and then saying, man, this is really soft carpet. That's just another thing that stuck out to me. Like, she was complimenting the creatures for how well they, took care of their environments. She said it was completely clean. They didn't go to the bathroom there. She didn't say where they went to the bathroom. She said it didn't stink. They didn't go to the bathroom. And so that's probably the last bit of this story that's actually probably not terrifying, right, for most people. So that was the normal part of the story that we're about to get into. Now here's the terrifying part of it, right? She was there for a year. And during that year's time, he took her as a mate. He abducted her to be his woman. And he actually got her pregnant. So Seraphine Long was abducted for a year, and this wild man, this Bigfoot, got her pregnant. And she postulated that he took her for that reason. And if you just barely scratch the surface of First Nation or Native American lore, this was not uncommon. There are several stories that you can go find about Native American women being snatched up by Bigfoots and, wild men and stuff like that. And before you get the idea of a patty Bigfoot having a cone head, I have a picture on my Instagram of a British Columbia wild man. Is on there. It's one of the feeds. You got to go down there and find it, right? It looked more like a crossbreed between a caveman, like a Neanderthal, and a Bigfoot. It didn't look like a Sasquatch that we would normally associate with down here in Central America, or central south of, what I'm talking about, Northern America, but down in the Americas, right? South of Canada, where you have the Patterson-Gilman Bigfoots, where they're all hairy ape-like and they have the cone heads, and then you head down further in the south into Oklahoma. You have the feral-looking ones and the skunk apes in Louisiana. It didn't look like that to me. It looked like it had some Neanderthal mixed with it, with a little bit of Bigfoot in there. And it's on my Instagram page in there, on the YouTube shorts or whatever. Just go down there and look for it. It's a clear picture of it, of its head. But during her pregnancy, towards the end of it, she started getting very sick, right? And these creatures, she said, could speak their language. And I got some more to that as well. Oh, another fun fact too. Did you know that in America, the only statistics, the FBI, there's two statistics that the FBI don't keep. One is people that go missing in national forests, and the other one is the abduction of Native American women. That's a true story. And that's the only sex and race in the United States of America that's not a database on how many of them go abducted a year. And I think that's just, there's more to that than meets the eye, but that's nuts to me. But anyways, go do your own research on that. Get back to me, nerds. So anyways, she got sick, right? She was like 9 months pregnant. And so she had developed a very good relationship with the mother. And so she was asking this Bigfoot to take her back to her people. And this is kind of sad. So she could die with her family, right? That's what she wanted to do. But the Bigfoot wouldn't do it. But the mother finally came in and was like, no. She said, no, but I don't have the details of the conversation. But the mother stepped in and said, do it. She made the younger juvenile take her back. So what he did was he came back into the cave again, told her he was taking her back, but he put that tar back on her eyes again, that probably pine tar or pine sap or something, back on her eyes again. She's 8 months pregnant, 9 months pregnant or something like that. Pregnant, and I don't know if you've ever been around any women. When they're 8 months pregnant, man, I call them thick as a tick, man. They could pop any time, man. So she is full showing, third trimester in the woods. But she said that he was very, very, very gentle on returning her. He didn't throw her over her shoulder, and he didn't run. This time he walked her back, carrying her in his arms. And when they got to that river again, he kind of, told her to hold on. And when she did, she was so weak, she slipped off, and it saved her. It went after her while she was trying to get away, while she was floating away in the river, and it pulled her out and then got to the other side, and it then carried her the rest of the distance. She didn't really say about the time or how long it took to get back, but we'll just say if it was a 3-hour run, it was probably a 6-hour, 7-hour walk or whatever. She then said that she could start hearing the sounds of her village. And when she did that, it said it gently set her down on the ground, cleared her eyes out, and then picked her back up again and took her very, very, very close to her village. Now, she was too weak to make any noises, so it made noise for her, right? And when it noticed that, people had caught her vision, it started backing off real quickly. And this is another thing too that I found very interesting in the story, is that it backed off into the bushes, and she could see it. And she said that it was very sad. It had emotion in its face that it was, leaving her there, right? That she was going, that it was dying, right? Her people came out, they found her. And when they did, they started making a big rush. Of course, they recognized her. This is village life. She'd been gone. I'm assumed 100% she was presumed dead. But they took her back, rushed her back to the village. Soon after that, she goes into labor and she gives birth to the child. Her brother was not having it and sent it down the river. Right? And I don't want to need to go into any detail to tell you how that was, but her brother was not having this thing and it was gone. Seraphine Long actually lived. She survived this ordeal, and they treated her. I don't know what they did. I don't know how they do it, but she actually overcame the sickness that she was experiencing while she was in the cave. And she actually survived and went on to live an extremely long life. She was like well into her 70s or 80s. That's like 200 years old back in the day, man. Like when a toothache could kill you, right? So she lived a very, very, very long time. And so during that time, that's when a teacher came to the reservation. He was an English teacher. And, when as they developed a bond together, she told him this story. This story was written down. It was written down, sent off to several newspapers, and it was published, right? And that right there also led into something that kind of strange happened in the area. So that's the end of the Seraphine Long tale right there. Was gone for a year, abducted, was well cared for. I mean, other than she was kidnapped, you know what I'm saying? Like, well taken care of. I mean, like, definitely taken against her will, right? But, you know, was well taken care of and was returned. And she always postulated that he wanted her as a mate, right? And that's why he took her, right? And so she went on to live a very, very long, healthy life. It didn't ever go on to say if she ever got married or anything as well. And she told this story to an English teacher on the reservation. He wrote it down and he sent it off, right? When that story got published, when it went out in like 1871 or I say probably 1875 or whatever, when that story got published, a lot of explorers ventured to this area, right? And when they went to the area, they were all very interested in Seraphine Long's story. And a couple of the village elders refused to let these adventurers come into their reservation, right? Until they earned their trust. So some of them was like, you know what, man, we're just going to go back, whatever, we're not going to stick around. But some of the guys that went up there, they actually just made camp outside of the reservation and they stayed there for a few months. And then finally the village elders let them come into the tribe, let them come into the reservation. And they were telling them these stories. And these guys had tons and tons and tons of questions, right? And this specific tribe, right, the Chehalis people, Chehalis people, right? They had a plethora of stories to tell these guys. In fact, what they told them is the chief made really good friends with one of these guys, right? And he told him a lot of specific details about this area, this story that was going on, right? And he told them that there was a sacred mountain. Actually, I think it's actually called the Mountain of Death, believe it or not, right? So I'm drawing a blank on that. Also, I did a full episode of this on my YouTube channel. I can't remember the number, man, but you just go on into my YouTube channel, hit the Enigma cast, and you can find the full episode of it where I go into much more detail. But he said there was a mountain there, and it was referred to as the Mountain of Death. And once a year, these creatures had a meeting at the top of that mountain, and the younger creatures would form a circle at the base of the mountain. And the Native Americans never went on that mountain, ever. He said that if you tried to go on that mountain the day of that meeting, you would not ever return. He described these creatures as being emotional, which is important. Emotional intelligence is a sign of high intelligence. Intelligence, having their own language and the ability to speak their language. He had also told him stories about how at times they had made treaties with these creatures. He also said that you will never find these creatures because, number one, they hibernate during the winter. And they say that they live in caves, and their caves are so well hidden that you would never find one, even as you walk right past it, right? Is what he said. He said there's a hierarchy to them. They have a leader. They are all over the area. And he says some of them are, he didn't use the word rogue, but I'm just, giving you the cliff notes. Some of them are rebellious and rogue-like, and they don't follow the rules. Their rules are never to hurt us, is what he said, right? And we have our rules here, never to interact or hurt with them. Basically just, a treaty of some sort. But he says at times, some of them will break the law, and they have killed their people. And he says, when that happens, the creature's people hunt down and hold the one who is being rebellious as accountable. And that leads to another thing. They have a justice system, right? Like this is a full thriving type of society, right? He also said that he was fishing one time and one of these creatures came running down the mountain and started throwing rocks at him into the water, right? And he was saying that, that they had a verbal confrontation in his own language when the chief reminded him that I'm the chief, this is my territory, you're not supposed to be here. If you do, I will, basically report you or rat you out. I don't know how that would happen, and you would be punished. So I thought that was amazing. But there's one more oddity about this area. There's one more oddity about this specific region. I'm going to tell you again, the region is, you can go look this up, man. The region is in British Columbia, but it's down near I'll give you the river real quick here. Hold on. The Chehalis Reserve. And it's down by I'm losing the river. It'll come to me in a second, man. You can probably go on Google Maps and just type that in and it'll show you whatever. And it's a major river that runs through it. He tells a story that there was an older guy in in his tribe who was hunting on these mountains one time. And he heard some loud noise in the bush and the brush. And something shot out of the brush, naked, dirty, and white. So he shot it. But he was in such a hurry to shoot it, he shot it in its leg, right? And then he was in total disbelief. What he saw was a fully grown, white, redheaded man was on the ground, right? On the ground with a bullet hole in his leg, right? And he said that the man started not screaming or screeching, but making a calling noise, a very guttural calling noise. And the hunter heard something come storming through the brush. He said it sounded like a grizzly bear was coming in. He was in total shock or whatever. And out of the brush burst this massive female Bigfoot, right? Or wild woman or whatever it is. I keep saying Bigfoot. I don't want you to think of the patty type Bigfoots with the cone heads, right? They look more like ape-likes. And she was furious. She was actually going to, he thought she was going to kill him. But he started speaking to her in her language, and she recognized it, and she spoke back to him in his language. And what she said is that you just shot my friend. And he was like, I didn't know he was your friend. I didn't know what was going on. And so she gently picks up this basically butt naked, dirty ginger with a bullet hole in his leg, and she carries him off into the woods. What is amazing about that story is it's an exact same area on a totally unrelated incident. There was a plane crash that happened of a French family, a man and a woman and his wife. The plane was crashed. When they found the plane, the mother and father was dead, but the child was gone. And several people speculate that that was the child from the French couple that crashed in that area. And another crazy fun fact is, I think the author of the movie Tarzan was a French dude. And I wonder if that's where that story came from, of Tarzan crashing in the jungle and being raised by apes. That's just how my mind works. But I just thought it was amazing that that took place in that area. And it had very similarities to the Tarzan plot, where he's raised by apes in the wild and, running around or whatever. But that right there is the Seraphine Long story, Enigmites. It is an amazing Bigfoot abduction story. It is kind of scary. It is kind of sad. It has a happy ending. And I thought it was fascinating. And so that's why I decided to put that up here. Last week I did my favorite Dogman story, was the Joe Barger story. And this week I told you some people hit me up asking me what I thought was one of the most believable Bigfoot stories. And the Seraphine Long story, to me, is one of the most believable Bigfoot stories I've ever heard. And again, when you go look that picture up on my Instagram page or my YouTube channel or whatever, I don't even know if I could call this guy a Bigfoot. Like I said, to me, he looked more like a Neanderthal, man. He looked more like a like a caveman mixed with like a little bit of like a Bigfoot gorilla. But they are sexually compatible with, obviously, humans, for lack of a better word. And I also have been working on a crazy little theory as well, where I asked myself, I ponder myself the question that why is it they don't track missing Native American women in the United States of America? And why? And before anybody goes crazy saying, "Oh, they want them to, they want them to die," no, that's not the reason. If 2024 has not showed you anything, is that if they want, they would do a better effort than not tracking missing persons if they wanted a certain group or whatever taken away. It makes me think along the same lines when I put the calculations on the same reason why they don't track it in national forests is because there's something that they can't control. It has to be something along that lines, man. That it's something that's going on that it can't control. And it has to be something along the lines that Native American women, either via accessibility or something specific with their blood or with their DNA, makes them a target for these type of events, right? And when I did a podcast about the Hopis out of the Grand Canyon, and in their creation stories, the Hopis out of the Grand Canyon will tell you they say they came out of the earth. They were led out of the earth, wait for it, by a reptilian race that could shapeshift into humans. And they referred to them as the ant people, not because they looked like ants, it's because they lived like ants. They lived in these catacombs inside the national, the Grand Canyon. It was reported, the Smithsonian went in, this was in the 30s, and they used cast iron bars and they blocked everything off. And to this day, man, you can't go to this area. I had a guy send me drone footage, but if you try to hike in the area where this cave was found, that the Hopi said they came out of, and they found all these hieroglyphic-like type of stuff. You can go watch it. It's on my podcast as well. A Black Hawk helicopter shows up, right? And I've seen it. You can go on YouTube and look at people trying to hike it, man. Like I said, don't let me be your last stop, man. Get curious, man. Pull on this thread. They're probably already tapping your phone because you're watching my cast. So pull on this thread, man. It's all good. Welcome to the list, man. It's all good. Go pull on that thread, man, and take a look at it. And it's curious why they use cast iron metal, right? And again, if you know anything, I don't recommend you study it, but if you study anything about demonology, demons don't do well with iron. There's harder metals that could be used, right? But I digress, man. So I'm coming full circle on that to tell you that, in my mind, there's something special about Native American women and these ancient creatures that are roaming here. And if you read that, again, the Book of Enoch, and the Sumerian tablets and all the other stuff, there's something going on. And I don't know what it is. And I haven't given it more than 30 seconds of thought. And, except for the Seraphine Long case. But, man, when there's smoke, there's fiduciary, Enigmites. And you know how I get down, man. All you got to do is follow the trail, get off page 1 of Google, and the whole world opens up. You do know everything on page 1 is paid for, right? On Google. If you want to get the real dirt, go to page 7, page 3. Hit that. If you want to hide a body, put it on page 2 of Google. That's what I always say. But you don't have to look very far to find that they don't really try to hide any of it. It's just there, and no one is really looking for it. And what is amazing to me is that the stories are always, man, they're always more amazing than the truth. They're always the truth is always better than the fiction with what they come up with. So anyways, Seraphine Long, great story. Butchered her tribe's name, British Columbia, 1870. Go look it up. Go look up at the details. Check it out. It's truly amazing. Go to my Instagram page. Look up the photo that was sent to me out of British Columbia. Another fun fact is, I don't know if you guys remember the fires there earlier in the year, or maybe it was at 2023. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. Some people were saying that they were smoking these beings out of that area. I don't know. I've never stepped foot in that part of the world before, so I can't really tell you how dense it is or whatever. But anyways, that's that. So if you're finding me on Instagram, hit the link in the bio. Go over there if you want to enjoy my long content or our long content over there. I got a team of buddies with me, Sasquatch Steve Taylor, my buddy Uncle Jay. I bring in guests all the time. Audacious Amber's my moderator over there. make yourself at home. Go through my library over there. If you're finding us on Insta or YouTube and you want to dig into more of the shorter content, the shorter stuff, the more fun stuff, the quick one-hitters, hit the link in the bio. Go over there. Join us on Instagram. I'm not going to bring the TikTok stream in until I break 10,000. I'm at 3,000 over there. I'm finally not getting shadow banned as much. I don't know. We'll see if it's even around come January. I'm sure it will be. And then we'll adjust it as well. So before I leave, got some homework for you. Fun fact, you might not know about this, but did you know that the Pope in the Vatican is planning on performing a ritual on Christmas Eve to open, his words, 5 portals, right? I think that's very strange. I have been involved in some stuff in my life, and if you guys know that, you've been on my channel more than 10 minutes or seen more of my stuff, you will know that I am a ex-Freemason, and you will know that I have been around some things. And I've told you this before, that every cardinal and above is a Freemason. You don't get to put on the red unless you're a Freemason. The Pope is actually a Jesuit. And I've told you before that when you read the Bible, and I got nothing but love for Catholics, man. 99% of the people that are Catholics are great people. 9 out of 10 Freemasons are great people. It's when you get to the top is when things get a little bit dicey. And I've told you before on this channel that the Roman Empire never went away. It just became the Holy Roman Empire. And when you read the book of Revelations, you will see things called Mystery Babylon. The Catholic Church, I'm sorry, is Mystery Babylon. It's Apollo worship. It's sun worship. It's Saturn worship. It's, I don't want to go, and there is a lot of satanic symbolism in a lot of the areas of the church. They have an observatory that they spent, I think, $300 million for it. Anybody remember the name of the observatory? Satan. The Catholic Church has an observatory searching for extraterrestrial life. Go look this up right after you leave here, and it's called Satan. Why in the world would the Catholic Church name its observatory Satan? I got nothing. I got my own answers, but I'll let you guys. It's December, Christmas. I'll let you guys sort that out. Also, if you go and look up what December 24th really is and why he's choosing that day to open the portals, that's a little bit of a head scratcher. But anyways, I might do a live on that. I might do a post on that. I might get bored and do a post on, I don't know, jellyfish. Who knows? I don't know what's going on, right? So anyways, that's just how my mind works. Thank you guys for turning in. I'm going to walk this out in a special way. Oh, let me check the chats. Man, okay. Peace out, nerds over there. Over there on YouTube. All the guys that's joining in, man, I'm sorry I didn't call you out. My girls, Cryptid Women's Society. Go check out their channel, y'all. They just got back from Egypt. The Cryptid Women's Society. I follow them. They had boots on the ground for like several weeks in Egypt, and one of them actually went inside a chamber and experienced some type of like levitation fiduciary over there, right? Julia and Lisa, one out of Melbourne, one out of New Zealand, right? If you've never been to Australia, everything down there will kill you. Everybody else that joined in, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. I created a few different things here on how to walk the live out, and I'm going to try it now. So again, I'm going to walk you out first. Instagram. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you later. And while that's closing out, YouTube, I got nothing but love for you guys, man. And thank you for tuning in. Do me a favor. Leave a like, thumbs up, comment, whatever. And we'll see you next time. That's all you get for $1, nerds. We're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.